And then there was so many to choose from, Gordon.
Yeah.
I don't know what you ended up choosing.
Well, I mean, you know, if you think about it, I mean, it wasn't just the fact that, you know, there were so many. It was the fact that they were all different sizes and widths as well.
Yes, that's right.
And it was so confusing. Anyway, we'll come back to that. We've got a podcast to do.
Well, I was talking about the whiskey at the New Year. I don't know what you were talking about. So I was talking about what whiskies I was going to choose to bring in the bells, as we say.
I was talking about the vessels you could drink it in.
Well, a happy New Year to you, Gordon.
Happy New Year, everybody, and happy New Year to all our listeners. We've been inundated with emails for the start of the year asking us what we're going to cover this year, and you know, you're going to hear pretty much more of the same, I think.
That's right. Well, it's the first show of 2023, and we were just talking about the traditions we have in Scotland, bringing in the new year. We call you know, what you're drinking at the bells. When the bells toll, that signifies the new year 2023. Gordon, I have to say, I brought it in with the teapot number 5, the Glengoyne Special Edition whiskey teapot number 5, a combination of 5 single casks combined together. Boom, undiluted, unfiltered. And
beautiful.
That's a great
well, I mean, the teapot is a fantastic whiskey. It's first fill sherry, big, bold, not particularly old. Brilliant whiskey, really punchy, fabulous.
That was me.
I actually had a 6 Isles. I was round at a friend's and had a little bit of whiskey, amongst a few other things, if I'm honest. And it was great, really, really pleasant. A nice festive period, quite quiet, and just great.
Great. Well, it is the first show of 2023, and we've got lots to get through. We've got an Olympic athlete on the show.
Well, we've had you know, Hollywood. We've had, you know, Joanna Lumley.
Yes.
We've had some of the finest people from the whiskey industry, but we've never had an Olympic medalist.
Oh.
So we've got an Olympic medalist. We really have. If you think about who we've covered in our 60 odd episodes, you know, we've really, you know, covered some
great,
amazing ground.
Great, and we're really, you know, I don't want to give the game away, but you pushed the boat out on this one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, yeah, we're going to hear from an Olympic medalist later in the show.
Gordon, I have to confess, I did a little bit of preparation for this last night.
Do we need to change the name to Whiskey Prepared?
I just thought, since it is the first show of 2023, that year will have whiskey anniversaries in it. If you'd like to pour yourself a dram, I've got 4 or 5 anniversaries. Could you choose which one you think is the most important for 2023?
Well, just to fill, I don't know what you're drinking, but I am actually drinking a Bowmore 18. The reason I am, it is that I did a tasting last week with our whiskey. So Becky Paskin and David Miles. It was me and David talking about Tamdhu. I was talking about Tamdhu Distinction number 2, and David was talking about Bowmore 18, which I like. Fantastic whiskey. So that's what I'm drinking.
Whiskies. I've got a little Glenfarclas. Glenfarclas 25. Which is lovely. Are you ready to play the 2023 Whisky Unscripted Anniversary Challenge? In 1963, we are now 60 years ago, Glenfiddich makes and markets itself as a single malt, about a 10-year head start in the rest of the industry. Is that a great anniversary? It's also 60 years since Andy Stewart recorded Campbellton Loch, I Wish Your Whiskey, Campbellton Loch, hi. So there's 2 anniversaries. 50 years, Gordon. In 1973, since Thin Lizzy released Whiskey in a Jar, and vodka started to outsell whiskey in the United States of America.
Really?
The clear, silent assassin was stalking Scotch and whiskey as a category, and it soon would overtake it. So there's some anniversaries. 90 years this year, the 90th anniversary of the ending of Prohibition. The Volstead Act comes to an end 1933.
It's another 90th anniversary as well.
70 years ago, in 1953, Gordon. There's quite a lot I'm throwing at you here.
Yeah.
70 years ago, the 70th anniversary of grain rationing stopping in the UK. Which might sound quite dull, but after a lot of the war years and then rationing, Scotch whisky could not get underway until grain rationing stopped. In that same year, we have the darker side of Scotch whisky. It's 70 years this year since Dylan Thomas, the great poet, Welsh poet who wrote Under Milkwood, Rage, Rage against the dying of the light. He walked in to his Greenwich Village hotel late at night and said to the doorman, 18 whiskies tonight. That's my record. Sadly, he fell into coma and never recovered. A bit of the darker side of Scotch whisky, but that is 70 years since.
Wow.
And my last one, it is 200 years since 1823. This is the 200th anniversary of the famous Excise Act, which effectively legalised the distillation of Scotch whisky. And between 1823 and 1825, 200 distilleries paid £10 for the licence. Effective legalisation. And my last one, Gordon. It's been 20 years since E. MacLeod bought Glengoyne.
Why?
So, with your Bowmore in your hands, the job is, out of those, unless you've got a better one, what anniversary will you be drinking to today?
Oh, well, I think the Excise Act obviously is one to, it's fundamental to, how whiskey is now.
The modern story starts really.
Yeah, exactly. All of them are great. All of them are really, really good.
What about Glenfiddich? Because if you go into Glenfiddich, and I would encourage anyone to go up there to have a tour. That's in the main hall. They're really pushing that. That really, they're very proud, and as they should be, that they put their whiskey as a single malt before really the rest of the world had done so with a marketing spend.
Yeah. No, absolutely, yeah. And they've been doing that ever since, if you know what I mean. Definitely, yeah. And also the other thing I just wanted to bring into this, because I'm used to represent it, is Auchentoshan's 200th anniversary this year.
Yep. So
1823 and Mortlach.
They were one of the 200 distilleries that opened up in that years following the Excise Act. Extraordinary explosion of legality.
The other thing is, of course, which you have, it's 20 years since we bought Glengoyne, so that was our first distillery. And this year we hopefully are completing 2 distilleries, Rosebank and Edinburgh Gin, that gin stuff. But I mean, Edinburgh Gin, we will hopefully have completed that this year to give us 4 distilleries, 3 whiskey, 1 gin, which is all very exciting. And it's the 90th anniversary of Ian MacLeod Distillers.
That's a very good one as well, since this programme basically is funded by Ian MacLeod Distillers.
Not that we have a budget, but yeah.
Gordon, on that point, it's throwing you under the bus a little bit, but trends of 2023, you mentioned Rosebank. The trend will be for more new distilleries opening. That would be one trend, I would assume, or at least more applications for more builds. Any other trends out there?
I think this year's a little bit up in the air. I think it's a very odd sort of time we're in at the moment, I think. And, with everything that's hitting everybody from a producing point of view to a consumer perspective to a business perspective in terms of, the sort of economic climate, I don't think it's going to be a year for sort of groundbreaking trends in the whiskey industry. I think it's going, I think it's going to be a sort of fairly, there'll be new releases and interesting whiskies for sure. But I think as a sort of trend, there's not going to be any groundbreaking. I think it's going to be a fairly, not quiet, but just sort of, an average year.
Right, yes. And abroad, markets?
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't really know, if I'm honest. I think, China's still grappling with what's going on with COVID. And India is an interesting market in terms of trade deals and things like that, which would be a game changer. You know, Australia, good market. Europe's all pretty good. I mean, you know, it's just it's really hard to say. It's really hard to say, but I would, you know, we're in a. I think the industry's in a good position to have probably a pretty good year. I would think.
Well, one of the trends of this podcast, and I have been on to some people within our organisation, we'd love to bring back the Insider's Guide. We've got one or two people lined up, Gordon, from finance directors to the person in charge of the whiskey across our portfolio, and you can maybe extrapolate the industry through some of these people. So we'll try and get that up and running in the next few weeks and months. But whiskey news. We could go back a couple of weeks, and the big news was, although we were on holiday, we still did a day's work between Christmas and New Year.
I don't think that's big news.
I was working between. So we were at the Distillers Fair, and Gordon, we've got a little bit of audio of us there, and I'd like to have a wee chat about it afterwards. Because it was a great day, and it was very interesting at the Scottish Whisky Experience, top of the Royal Mile.
I'm amazed by that place because I know how well attended it is because its location and what they offer is brilliant. But I mean, it was heaving, and it was like there was loads of people, and you know, it just shows you how powerful that is as a tool for us. It's actually owned by the industry as well, you know, and it's a powerful. If you've never been to Scotch Whisky Experience, go. It's fabulous. So yeah, we've got a bit of feedback from that, which was great, and it was nice to sort of get out of that sort of what day is it, what time is it sort of scenario between Christmas and New Year.
That's right. Well, hit the audio. Here's a couple of minutes, Gordon. Do you remember this?
So, Mr. Dallas, we're on the train to Edinburgh. It's the 29th of December. So what are we off to do today, Gordon?
We're off to the Distillers Fair. This is the first one since all those lockdowns and whatnot. So we are going through to the capital of Scotland, right up the Royal Mile, just before the castle. There's a Scottish Whisky Experience. And for 2 days of the year, they hold a Distillers Fair, the very top floor, which I don't think you've been to yet, Gordon.
I've never been, but you've promised me a good lunch.
This is what I'm worried about. I'm worried I've got you on the 29th, and this is officially your holidays. Well,
that's okay.
It's fine. But I'll go there for a good lunch as well. So I'm hoping that it is a bloody good lunch, because if I'm not, there's going to be trouble.
It'll also be a nice way to talk about and influence and get people to taste our whiskies, of course.
Of course. And I think really why they do this is because it's a lot of tourists. Edinburgh is one of the capital Christmas and New Year events in the world. I mean, people from all over the world come into Edinburgh for the Hogmanay especially, and also for Christmas, and many of them will be here now. They're either staying through the whole week, or they're just arriving yesterday and today. And my experience was so many foreign visitors, really, and the ones that come to the Scottish Whisky Experience, oh my goodness, they're whisky aficionados, whisky nuts, and some just want to learn more about it. So it's a completely different crowd from what you might get at maybe a normal UK tasting event.
I mean, unfortunately, the ones that want to learn anything shouldn't come anywhere near our stand, of course, but ultimately we're going to report back with some more feedback and some more interviews from the people there.
The only trouble is, Gordon, where's the trolley service on the train?
I think we're just lucky the train's moving, if I'm honest.
You're absolutely... We're on a train.
So, Gordon, we've made it to the Scotch Whisky Experience. Now, we're with Cody here from Glencadam and from Angus Dundee. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, feeling very merry. Christmas, I'm very full.
It's very busy here because we're at Scotch Whisky Experience, and we're on one of the last runs of the ride, if anybody's been to the Scotch Whisky Experience. Now, Cody used to work here. It's being replaced next year. Now, quite an experience, this.
You know, a lot of people love the ride. I used to really enjoy the ride as well. If I could, in the mornings, I used to sneak away from the box office or the shop and just do the ride for 10 minutes so the boss couldn't find me. And I will miss it for that. But it'll be good to have more of a guided experience at the Scotch Whisky Experience. I think people learn a little bit easier when they can ask questions, which you can't do with a ride. So I'm looking forward to the future and what it's going to become.
Gordon Dallas is actually bumping up and down with excitement. Gordon, I know you're...
Where's the popcorn?
I know you're a little kid. Do you reach the minimum height allowed for this ride?
He loves it. He absolutely. How long have you been waiting for that one? We're about to jump into sort of half barrels, and they take you gently around the story of Scotch whisky. But yes, where's the measuring? Where's the measuring wall?
I think you come in as a child. Yeah, we're about to do it, so we'll report back.
That was good.
Yeah, that was great.
For those people, it'll be gone now. But we were just about to on those barrel rides with Cody there, and that's been great. But it's served a purpose. I think people think things have a cycle, and those barrels. And I'm very keen to see what happens next.
I think moving on from that's the right decision, and you have to continue to evolve. And it's a little, I was on it going, I think it's time now. And I think everybody agrees. So, yeah, it was all good. But, it was a great day. So that was nice.
Great day. One thing that got me, Gordon, and sometimes when you're doing this podcast, you kind of forget we had a lot of people coming to the stands, and we were right next to Kilhoman, we're next to Craigellachie, and there was Dewars in the room, and Diageo, and there was others in the room. How many people were new to whiskey? It was lovely to see that. Lots of people from all over the world, maybe it had been brought by a partner, but they were wanting to learn, and I don't know if you found that.
Totally.
I thought sometimes we should have a little back to basics.
I mean, you're there speaking to people, and it's like, where are you from? Argentina. Where are you from? Alaska. Where are you from? We're at Korea, wherever. It's unbelievable. And I'm sort of going, have you all come to Edinburgh for New Year, or are you all? And there was a mixture of people from all around the world. It was amazing.
On that point, Gordon, being back to basics, I've got the word whiskey. Just before we go on to the next level, next part, just a small challenge. Back to basics. The word whiskey. Try and spell the word whiskey with whiskey-related labels. I'll start. Whiskey. W is white and Mackay. The next letter is H.
Oh, Heaven Hill.
Heaven Hill. The next one is I. Would be Inchmoon. Inchmoon as well.
S. It's got to be an S.
S.
Smokehead.
Oh!
Yes.
K. I'll go with Cavalan. And I'll leave you with a Y.
Thanks. That's why you went first.
Oh, I'm looking at a bourbon right now from a very famous...
Yellow Corn?
It was Yellowstone? Was that where... Yellowstone. Is that where Yogi and Boo Boo lived?
I think it was. Yeah, I think that's very good. Well done.
Not a bad wee game to play. But the point being, all these new people to whiskies is fun as well. That's
exactly.
The bottom line.
Let's make it fun. Yeah.
Let's make it fun. Is it time to introduce your guest?
Well, yeah, let's absolutely do that. I mean, I sat down with an old friend of mine. I've known him for a fair few years. We're from the same hometown, from Helensburgh. That's where he got his love of the water. He won an Olympic silver medal at the London Olympics. Luke Patience, he won it in the men's 470, so in sailing. So we know Britain are pretty good at sailing. Ben Ainsley doing very well and all that sort of thing. So he was very much part of that squad. Really, I talked to him a little bit about, being an Olympian and having an Olympic medal. I thought he might have had it with him. I've never held an Olympic medal, but he didn't. It's in, and he'll tell us where it is. But it's, fabulous guy. And it really just wanted to talk to him about that. But also, he's a big whiskey guy and loves his whiskey. Yeah. And he's going to be... Then we're going to hear a bit more from Luke in the industry in the coming couple of years. So, really interesting guy. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Mr. Patience, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. I'm a wee bit chilly.
Yeah, it's a little bit cold.
In a warehouse, but I'm very good.
Good to see you, my friend. And welcome to Whisky Unscripted. And I want to tell everybody just a little bit about your plans and what you're doing, because obviously we've known each other for a while, and whiskey and sailing are the two connections, I think. Would that be fair?
It would be fair, yeah. It's normally whiskey and rum, isn't it? But that's maybe more Caribbean.
Yeah,
Scotland were whiskey and sailing.
Absolutely.
Did I say whiskey and rum? I meant sailing and rum, not whiskey and rum. Cold's getting to me.
So for those who maybe aren't aware, Luke, you are an Olympian. 2012, London.
Yeah.
Silver medal.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And you've been sort of sailing in the squad for many years, haven't you?
Yeah, so I am, I'm 36 now, 37 this year.
Time
a few
moves
grey
on.
hairs in the mirror. Recently retired Olympian. Would maybe be the right words. Yeah, so Tokyo was my last games.
Mm-hmm.
And, for now. You mustn't ever say never.
Never.
So yeah, recently retired Olympian, 18 years.
Wow.
I was about to say serving the British sailing team, but I think you serve yourself. The British sailing team just support you.
Yeah.
So very lucky. Had a great stint. I've had a good career, and it's time for me to move on to pastures new.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. I want to go back to we've never had an Olympian on the podcast. We've had movie stars. We've had William H. Macy.
Nice.
We've had famous whiskey people. We've had lots and lots of people on it, but we've never had an Olympic medalist. So, as an Olympian, particularly in London as well, that must have been an amazing experience to be on the podium and representing Great Britain at a British Olympics. Really? And does it get any better than that? Maybe gold, possibly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But still amazing. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard one to describe, because it's funny. I look back at it now and almost think, was that me? There's almost it's surreal in some ways still. I'm just thankful my mum and dad conceived me on that day, that I was of that age to be able to compete at the London Games, but it surpassed all expectation. I was trying to imagine what it might be like as we built up to it. When I say we, my teammate Stuart Bithell, and I don't think anything could have prepared us for how big an occasion it was, and I almost feel like that might have been for the public too, perhaps, because we would read the tabloids and things, and there was almost a bit of classic British cynicism about the event that was approaching and the taxpayers' money that it took and things like that. There's always that side to the news, and sure enough, I think it was Lizzie Armistead got our first medal for Team GB in the road race, and it just ignited this positivity in the media, and it was great. But but my personal experience, I could never have imagined the support that we got. I could never have imagined what it would feel like to compete. That was the whole thing that brought me on this journey. It was curiosity. As a 10-year-old, watching the Olympics in Atlanta, '96.
When we had about our worst ever Olympics.
Pretty much worst ever, and probably what helped spark a bit of lottery funding. Yeah. Not long after that. It was curiosity to know what it would feel like, stand on a podium, a Union Jack over my shoulders, hearing the national anthem. That was the original plan. I had to listen to the Australians, annoyingly, but I think the most impactful moment for me didn't end up being standing on the podium winning a medal. It was actually the opening ceremony. We were there in the tunnels of the Olympic Stadium, and obviously as the host nation you go out last. So all the athletes are called out. They do they walk around the running track in the athletic stadium, and then you stand and they do all the show. And we were in there in the bowels of the stadium, and we just the last country had gone out, Zimbabwe probably, and then you just hear the chanting, Team GB, fists, amazing. Feet, the works. And we went out, and the explosion of light, and they had 70 million, what's it, the confetti stuff there that you might, the little bits of paper.
Yeah.
70 million to represent each person in our country, and the music came on, and that moment, that sits with me. I remember that like it was yesterday, and that was it, you've arrived.
Yeah.
After all those years of dreaming and planning, we're here. It was amazing.
I bet it was amazing. That sounds amazing. And at what point did you, as a youngster kicking around in Helensburgh, as that's where I'm from as well, so quite a saily place really, with lots of dinghies and yachts and things. What point did you realise that's what I want to be? Did you have that sort of bing moment? I want to be an Olympian. I want to really push my... Because you were clearly a very talented sailor. What point did you go, this is more than a hobby for me in my head? What kicked that off?
Yeah, I can actually answer that quite definitively. It was after watching the Sydney Olympics in 2000. Yeah. I was 13 at that point. And I just remember watching the boat I eventually sailed, so it's called a 470, a two-man boat. It's like a wee bucking bronco in water, you know. And I remember watching the 470s race during the Sydney Olympics, and that was it. That's the moment that you just asked me. I remember turning to my mum and dad at 13 and going, I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do. I've worked it out. I'm going to the Olympics, and I'm going to sail that boat, and I'm going to represent the country. It was that.
Fabulous.
But I was quite sporty. I played tennis. I did a wee bit of... I was forced into horse riding as a kid because my sister liked doing that. I realise I'm labelling some very middle-class sports here, but we were not a middle-class family, you know. We would sleep in the car going to events. You know, my parents had no money. Everything was second-hand equipment, you know. This is...
And the time of them driving you around and doing all of that as well, you know, I know it's a big thing for you.
Oh, a huge shift my dad put in to make it happen. But, I mean, it honestly broke as a family in terms of it happening. But my dad and mum were just so committed to giving their kids a good life, you know, so all credit to them. I think they're probably a bit annoyed I didn't go to a sport that makes you millions of bucks, because then I could buy their retirement for them. But I chose a sport that takes millions of bucks to do.
That is but you were ultimately very successful at it, and I'm sure they would be, and they are very proud of you, I'm sure. So one thing I want to know, as an Olympic medalist, do you carry it with you all the time? Do you leave it? Where do you have it? I mean, is it in a safe? Do you? I mean, everybody must be going. Oh, I was hoping you'd have it here today, but I'm joking. But you wouldn't want to lose it, would you?
You wouldn't want to lose it. No, the London medals at that point were I think they were the biggest and heaviest medals from any modern Olympics at that point. So my medal it's silver. It's almost pure silver. It's something like 98% silver.
You've had it valued in Ramsden's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See how many bottles of whiskey I can buy from it. And I mean, Stuart and I took it everywhere with us at first.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, it was currency for us.
And does the ribbon not get all?
Yeah, it's all bobbly now. You know, the ribbons.
Yeah. Can you not get? You need to try and get a new ribbon somewhere.
Also, my mum does a wee bit of silversmithing for fun, and I keep meaning to get her to polish it up. The thing's a wee bit battered now.
Is it?
Yeah.
So where is it at this moment?
It is in the island of Tyree.
Oh, it's at home in Tyree?
It's at home. Yeah, my parents live there.
It's a very safe place to keep it.
I don't know if there's any crime there.
No.
The only crime is one sheep wandering from one farmer's field to another. Right. You know, that's so. That's where it lives. But we had fun with the medals.
I bet you did.
We had fun. We were bad boys.
No, I'm sure you were. I'm sure. Well, why would you not take it for the full advantage of what it is? Absolutely.
It was only ever going to last for a moment in time,
of course,
wasn't it? These things aren't forever. So I think we used it to its maximum capacity after London.
Full marks. Why wouldn't you? So in the same sort of vein, you know, you've had a very successful sailing career. You still sail a lot and travel a bit, but you are thinking ahead. And your love for whiskey is something I'm aware of. Something that you know you're keen to explore and move on to the next level. And that's just obviously what we wanted to get an insight on. What are your plans in the world of whiskey?
Yeah, well, I'm still storming. I think my plans seem to mould and shift every few months. Which is probably a symptom of being very early days in it. I mean, firstly, I love whiskey. I always have. And actually, it was a friend of mine, Joe Glanfield, who I sailed with in 2013, but back at the Beijing Olympics, when I was just a wee lad. Well, I'm still wee now, but a training partner. I got my first taste of whiskey in a bar in Qingdao. For those of you who might have drank Qingdao beer.
So that's a Scot got his first taste of whiskey in China.
With an Englishman.
With an Englishman.
Not that there's anything wrong with an Englishman, but my point being is it's our heritage largely here, where we're very proud of whiskey being part of our heritage.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was my good friend that got me. So I was in a bar in China with an Englishman drinking whiskey. And
sounds like a joke.
Yeah, I know.
But okay.
And it just, it was actually him that said, "Oh, Luke, you don't drink whiskey?" I was like, "No." And he said, "Mate, you must, whether you like it or not, you just must. You know, your country is famous for it. You know, it's your heritage. You need to." I was like, "Okay." So for the 2-week training camp in China, bear in mind I wasn't there competing, so I was allowed to let my hair down in the evenings. It took me about 2 weeks to get into the flow drinking whiskey in China, and came home, and that was it. I was hooked. And I think what I love about the whiskey sort of world is that the people are wonderful. You know, you have great conversations with people. It's very people focused, and it's such a passionate industry. You know, that reminds me of the sporting world. People are so passionate because they're not there for anything other than to get the very best out of themselves. And it feels like the whiskey world is like that, distillery to distillery. They're just trying to get the best possible product with the most flavour, and there's always a good story behind it, and people get together and things. So it just started off of loving the liquid itself, and then I fell in love with the world that whiskey is, and basically I want to be part of it. I just want to be part of that world because it floats my boat, and I think that I would love to. Well, you've asked what the plans are. I mean, like I said, they're moving all the time, but the plan is to get to a stage where me and my sister and brother-in-law are going to do an independent bottling.
Fantastic.
Of which there are many, we know, but we can have one more, can't we?
Of course you can. Yeah.
And we want to, we want to just move into that. We want to learn as much as we can along the way. We'll learn about buying liquid, of course, and hopefully buy tasty liquid, you know, and just work our way into the whiskey world and keep finding our feet in that way. But the first stop is to do an independent bottling.
Yeah, fantastic.
And meet some great people along the way, and who knows, maybe one day I'll be running a distillery.
Distillery manager.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
distillery manager. Yeah. No, fabulous. And just to let people know, what we're here at a warehouse in Washington Street in Glasgow. We've done what we call a podcast doubler.
Yes.
So I've just recorded for your new podcast,
yes,
which will be coming out, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
And we're now just doing a little follow-up for Whisky Unscripted. But podcast, part of the plan, obviously. Rough timings, when do you think it'll be out, so people can find out about it?
Yeah. So part of entering into this world, like you've just labelled it out there. So doing a wee podcast as well. I was kind of inspired by your one, and funnily enough,
that's surprising.
Yeah, Whisky Unscripted has kept me smiling on these long journeys up and down Scotland. But yeah, so thought we'd start a wee podcast as well, and you've just been the first guest. Thank you very much.
Yep. Well, I hope it goes well, considering I'm the first guest.
But yeah, so we are the Whisky Folk, as will be the Whisky Folk podcast. We are going to just go back to the drawing board and listen to what we've just recorded, edit it, and then get it out there. Probably by the end of this month. Hopefully, we're January now.
Fantastic.
And yeah, so the podcast can be something to do alongside. I kind of think that one of the reasons, as I just said, that my inspiration to come into the whiskey world is just how cool the people are and the stories. And I was like, right, well, I'd love to talk to different people and celebrate that, and maybe we'll film bits of it along the way.
Yeah,
might be on YouTube as well. So
it will all be the Whisky Folk.
The Whisky Folk.
So we'll keep people up to date on our podcast about when it launches, and they can come across and listen, unfortunately, to me in the first episode. But you'll be doing some great content, I'm sure, from around the world, because you're still doing a bit of sailing as well.
Bit of sailing.
Where are you off to tomorrow?
I'm off to Sardinia.
I'm off to Broxbourne.
I'm off to, I can hardly pronounce it. So we would all say Cagliari, but it's Cagliari. Cagliari or something. They silent the G.
And I'm sure it's a bit warmer there, and you're doing a bit of training, are you?
I'm actually coaching, yeah.
Coaching.
So I'm not in the sailboat, I'm in the coach boat. With good friends of mine, long-standing friends, a chap called John Gimson and Anna Burnett. Now, you'll know the Burnetts, won't you?
I will know the Burnetts, yes.
So
again, another Helensburgh connection.
Yeah.
Helensburgh's
the centre of the universe.
Helensburgh's the centre of the universe, and actually has, to be honest, I'm from Helensburgh, has produced quite a lot of medalists in the old Olympics from the sailing angle. Started by Mike McIntyre many years ago. Yeah. So yes, that's exciting. So what boats are they in?
So they sail, it's called a Nacra, and it's one of these modern double-hulled flying boats. I mean, you obviously know, but for the listeners, these are like the spaceships of the sailing world. They can go faster than the wind, if you can get your head around that physics.
Yeah.
And so I'll be pretty much chasing them flat chat on a coach boat, doing 40 knots whilst trying to film, whilst trying to get good content to sit and debrief with them after.
While drinking a whiskey.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
And so if I said to you, and what's your go-to dram? What's the dram that you pull out the cupboard and you go, yeah, that's good, that's a great dram? Doesn't have to be an Ian McLeod one, obviously.
Oh, it's a good question. It depends what mood I'm in.
Very, very good point. Very good point. Totally right.
I think because it is just after Christmas and it's cold, my palate is often, well, funnily enough, my palate's drawn to, it would make sense, I would say something heavier and peatier, but actually it's drawn to the more Christmas notes because of Christmas. Mm-hmm. So I like getting more up into that Speyside area for Christmas. I tell you one dram that I had a few years ago. It was one of the whiskies that really brought me into it, is the Ben Rinnie's 15, the Flora and Fauna range.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I haven't had it in ages, so I couldn't now. This was when my palate was much less learned than it is today. So would that even hold Christmassy notes? And
I'm not too familiar with that. I mean,
yeah.
So I mean, generally, if you're looking for those Christmassy notes, those sort of raisins in the dark, you'd be looking at a sherry cask.
Yeah.
European oak probably. So similar whiskies to our Glengoyne 21 and 25. Mm-hmm. I don't know particularly about the Ben Rinnes, but if those are they'd be more cask-driven flavours, so it'd be a darker whiskey generally.
Yeah.
But great choice at this time of year. You know, I drank a bit of sherry cask Tamdhu 15-year-old over Christmas, and just perfect for that time of year.
Yeah.
You know? And there's great sherry casks all over the place, so, and you can add in a bit of peat or whatever. But yeah, absolutely. And then maybe more a summery whiskey. Have you got a summery one?
Summery whiskey.
We were talking about highballs, weren't we?
Yeah, we were talking about highballs. Yeah, I mean that has become a love of mine in 2022. Is making highballs. They're just fresh and tasty, and they slip down a little too easily.
Slip down quite well.
Yeah, it's gone before you know it. But I'll tell you one whiskey that has just got, I think possibly one of my favourite drams ever is the Abuna range with Aberlour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice.
Just nectar.
Yeah.
Nectar.
Good stuff.
I love it. I know they've done different batch releases from it.
Sherry cask again, you know, you clearly love a bit of sherry cask.
It's so rouge, isn't it? The colour of it is just, and I love it. Thinking back to your first question, I'm going to pick that.
Well, I mean, if you like Aberlour, you'd absolutely love a Tamdhu, so we'll get you some Tamdhu. Right. But no, very, very good whiskey. And clearly you like those slightly heavier styles of whiskey.
I do like the lighter whiskies do serve a purpose for my palate, but the purpose is much smaller. I like the impact and the depth of flavour. I like the finish being quite long as well. But a few whiskies recently which maybe I'm still learning, but they're gone as soon as I've swallowed them.
Yeah.
And I like the ones that last a little longer.
So,
and I can...
again, those sherry casks will tend to do that.
Right.
You also get a bit of that with age, but it depends on so many different factors. So.
Yeah.
But, well, fabulous. And look, it's been great to have you on Whisky Unscripted, Luke. Thank you for taking the time to chat to us. And we will keep people up to date with the Whisky Folk.
Yes.
And, yeah, enjoy Sardinia.
I know, it's not going to be nice, is it?
No.
I'll get my sun hat on.
Oh, stop it. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much for having me. Good to be here.
Cheers.
Oh, that was great, Gordon. That was
Yeah.
That was great.
No. So yeah, I mean, we actually did a podcast off. He's starting a podcast.
What? I mean, who's not got one?
which everybody will obviously share all the info, but he's starting a sort of whiskey podcast, talking to whiskey folk, and we'll share all the information. But then I said, well, if I'm on yours, can you be on ours? So yeah, we did a wee recording of that, which was great. He's got very posh podcasting kit. None of the stuff we've got, which is basically, free software and a microphone. But anyway, it was great. So yeah, lovely guy. So
he was having his dram. He said his first dram in China with an Englishman.
Yes,
which is
great, fabulous.
Yeah.
That was back in Beijing, I think, 2008. So
you must have had a couple of unusual occasions. You've had a dram in and thought, this is. This is not Kansas, if you see what I mean.
I mean, I've been in very strange places having whiskies. I mean, I'm trying to think of the strangest, but Bali on a beach was quite interesting, and about 30 degrees of whiskey tasting on the beach. Quite a lot of interesting place. China you can end up drinking whiskey in strange places in China. But yeah, just I mean, like all these things, the one thing you notice is everybody just is. We all love what we're doing, and we love that, whether it's new people, existing people, it brings amazing people together.
Yeah, on that point, Gordon, this is only going to make the director's cut, so you won't listen to this if you're just listening to the normal podcast. I tried and failed to do a whiskey Olympic theme. I got not very far. This is only for the very big geeks. Venus Williams and Humber, which is a sherry bodega in Hereford. I got Maker's Mark Spitz. I got Daley Thompson Brothers.
Yes, nice.
I get Bob Beeman Suntory. You've got to squeeze that in. And I got Sir Steve Redbreast, which isn't Redgrave. I just had to start making up.
Nice.
So if anyone's got any Olympic-themed whiskey connections, please send them in to our Whisky Unscripted.
You'll be inundated, I would imagine.
Gordon, we're coming up near the end, but how would you like to play the first of the 2023 You Have Reached Your Whiskey Destination?
I love this game. Yes, let's play it.
You have reached your whiskey destination. You have reached your whiskey destination.
And if you're listening, try and guess what whiskey distillery we're going to. If you've never heard this before, you're just jumping in. I go to the website, and so does Gordon, of these whiskey distilleries, and they always say, contact us, here's a map, and you follow the instructions. So that's all we're doing. Follow the instructions from the website, and I'm leaving from Glasgow, Gordon. 336-mile journey. It's going to take me 7 hours and 20. So I've got my sandwiches packed. I've got my little bag of crisps and my meal deal. I'm heading east on the M8. A few miles, I head south on the M74 towards Carlisle. At junction 20A, I head left on the slip M56 Chester and North Wales. I keep on the A55 to Holyhead. I then jump on another mode of transport. I got off of that mode of transport. I follow signs for the M50 heading southbound, directly southbound. At junction 9, I head left. I pick up the M7 for 7 miles. I then pick up the M9 for 73 miles. I'm directly heading south. I take this roundabout for I can't say the name, and Tipperary Mountains. At the third roundabout, the third exit, R686, R680, I turn towards Cork. I enter this famous county. I turn into the Mary Street, postcode X91K95. Directly south. I've not went west. I've been on that island and went directly south. You mentioned this place last time we did the podcast. You have reached your whiskey destination. And the conversation revolved around terroir.
Waterford.
Yes!
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 I was thinking it was... I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have gone for Jameson's. And there's a Jameson's distillery down there, or there's a Kinsale distillery, or Dingle, but Dingle's further west.
Yeah, I suppose these I couldn't mention, it keeps on saying take the Waterford exit, enter County Waterford, head towards Waterford. So well done. Right on the south coast of Ireland there, when you get across the ferry from Holyhead. So I was on their website, Gordon, as you said, they really are ferociously into terroir. And you put the code from your bottle in there, and it tells you all about the...
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, it's like geek out on all of that information, and fabulous. The
distillery ambassador, Ian, tremendous geezer. I had a great night with him in Budapest and in Amsterdam. Great people there. So great whiskey as well.
Definitely. Yeah, very, very good. Very nice one. Well done. I think we should do that every week. So I will prepare one for next time.
That is good. And there's a hell of a lot of places you can go in Ireland if you like your whiskey. So that's...
There's so many distilleries in Ireland, and there's so many new distilleries in Ireland. There's so many new distilleries in Scotland. And there's so many bourbon distilleries. Going back to the news a little bit. I mean, I think there's an appreciation in America that there's a bit of a bourbon glut, and there will be a bit of a bourbon glut, and we'll see what happens in that in the long term. But I think Scotch whisky industry is really strong. And for us this year, it's a big year for us at Ian McLeod. As I said, we've got Rosebank coming on stream, and Malcolm's desperate to get that going. And any producing spirit.
For those people that have held on for this podcast at the very end,
the best bits are at the end.
Any little teasers you can tell us about Rosebank, Gordon? Because I know you've been there.
It's a distillery. It's got three stills. I mean, on a semi serious note, it's going to produce a great whiskey for sure. We're not going to. I
think people want to know when. They want to know when.
Well, I would think.
When can they go and see it?
End of the summer.
Right.
There we go.
That's good.
I think from about September onwards, I think we will be open to the public. So a big year for us with that. That's been a big investment. It's taken a lot of time, but we're nearly there, which is fabulous. So excited. And all I would say, I think, we're entering our, third year of doing this? Or is it our fourth year of doing this? I'm not sure. Third year. I think we started this in April or May 2020.
2020, it'd be lockdown year.
So we've been doing it for nearly 3 years. And I think, it's great to see the numbers. We've hit 20,000 downloads. I think that's not bad for a little podcast that we don't particularly promote or particularly do too much with, but we just hope everybody enjoys it. We will continue to do it within the realms of our day-to-day job as well, of course. So they may be a bit sporadic in terms of we
keep on bumping into people that have listened to it, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a whole load of whiskey podcasts out there, but we just hope you enjoy what we do. It's a little bit different, and keep listening and tell your friends, because the people that just spread the word, because we do love doing it, and the feedback we get is great when we speak to people, and that's the reason we do it. It's to entertain and to, of course, try and give you a bit of an overview of the industry from a producer perspective, which was the original plan. So I think we will make sure we get some more interviews which we can uniquely provide as a producer and a distiller. So we will do some of that.
Absolutely, Gordon. And one or two specials as well. I'd like to, we've got a few plans for 23 since we're episode 1. Lovely to do a live show, wouldn't it, as well? And maybe take it out to Rosebank and other places with a potential audience. Could be good.
I think a live show from, I think somewhere in Kentucky or something would be good. We might fly out and do that. We've got that in the budget. And
if not Kentucky, maybe Derby. If not the Kentucky Derby, we could just go down south. Anyway, it's a really bad
or
joke.
A KFC somewhere.
Brilliant.
Just wanted to say, guys, we do really appreciate you. If you enjoy it, we enjoy it. So let's just carry on.
Great.
Gordon, thanks very much.
Okay. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
On the whiskey trail.